Thank you for coming. My life is just one giant technical glitch, it seems lately. So here is where we are. I'm going to show you how to apply for the CKTO today. Part of my problem is the call that I thought would be up by today is not quite up. The glitch is that we had to get approval again because they changed the state aid regulations. That's why it stops September 29th and is restarting. As part of the stop and restart, we're making it a little bit simpler to apply by combining Path 1 and Path 2. That is all the programs that were the innovation programs in the past for a certain period, and also any contract you have signed with RAF that mandates you must go to the CKTO. Path 3 is for everything else, and I'm going to demonstrate all this today. And to do that, I am going to start with sharing my screen. Hold your questions till I get done, and then at the end I will open it up for questions, any questions you may have. Okay, so let's start with, let me get ready here and share my screen so that you can see things. Good. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. If you've been to the Research and Innovation Foundation before, you'll recognize this is our homepage. And because I still don't speak Greek very well, I'm looking at the English version of it. As you know, you go up here, you click this button with the Greek flag, you'll get Greek. And if you click the British flag, you'll get English. Now, the first place you want to go if you've never applied to us before is here where it says Innovation Services and over to Central Knowledge Transfer Office. So we'll click on this. And you see it brings us down to a I gotta make this English to a set of things, information about the CKTO. What are the services we provide? What's our IP voucher program? What other kinds of things are we doing, which is capacity building and training? That's mostly done through Innovation Factory for those of you who are not in an academic institution. And if you are in a academic or research institution, as opposed to just a company. And if you are in an academic or research institution, we have an open call out right now for spokes, and that's how you get the higher level of training that is tech transfer, commercialization training for those. Notice pretty much anybody in the country of Cyprus can apply. If you're registered in the country of Cyprus, whether you're an individual or a company, you are allowed to apply. We have a contractor called Meta, which provides the services. I assist someone as the program manager. How do you get these services? Well, you apply for a path. Now, Path 1 and Path 2 are being combined, but you can go in even now and see it's pre-seed, seed, innovate, co-develop. And here's the call identifiers that qualify. And otherwise, Path 2 says I had a grant already, and I am from RAF or a contract from RAF, and it's mandated. Path 3 is for everybody else. It's what we call the open call. And lo and behold, if you click under here, you get links to the various calls as well as the KTO framework of operations. Pretty straightforward and easy to figure out the basics of how to apply. Okay, let's walk through what happens when you do go to apply. We apply off of the IRIS portal. Those links are taking you to the IRIS portal. There are two parts of this portal that are important for you: the call for proposals and useful documents. If you want the call, you go to the call for proposals. If you are a current awardee, you qualify for what's listed as Path 1 or Path 2, the new Path 1. You will click, you will log into IRIS, put into the Let's see if it comes up real fast here. There we are. Put in here, you're looking for calls for the KTO, the Knowledge Transfer Office, or the CKTO, and lo and behold, you'll find those calls as you go down. Now, we don't have many of them up now because they are being reestablished, but the open access one, the path 3, has not been taken down yet. So there's an example of what you would see. Now, when you go to apply for the call, the best thing you can do is, lo and behold, open it up. It opens, ta-da, boom, there you see it. Read the call. Everything you need to know is in the call. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to read the call because, quite frankly, if you can't read the call, you're never going to commercialize anything. It's, if you can't deal with reading a call, do you think you're going to be able to deal with a licensing contract or a venture capital contract or a sales contract? So if you need help on how to read the call, we can answer questions for you through our help desk on where's this information, where's that, how do I find this? But in understanding the call, that's up to you, basically. Or, if we need a training and people don't understand things, this is your opportunity to ask questions. I will do more trainings if that's needed. But that's the important thing. The other thing you got to do is you need to open the technical annexes. And this drives me up a wall because it just keeps on saying other documents. That's an artifact of Iris, which I cannot control. But there is prepared for you a guide. So I'm going to show you how to find the guide easily. If we go in, this is the calls for proposals. We've just seen that. We can also go in and look for guides. And if we go in and put in KTO or under the guides, there's the framework. Here is some of the supplemental forms that you fill out. And lo and behold, here's the guide for applicants. And we click that. This will be updated. We open it in our browser. And there is step-by-step instructions on how to apply. Step by step, everything you need to know for every single thing in the call and in the appendix. Now, as you read through this, every now and then you will have some questions. For example, let me find the here, I'm going to slide this up here. If we had downloaded the path 3, this is the path 3 part B. And you're reading along and there's instructions. And the first, some of it's pretty easy. What's the title of the project? What's the organization? Was there any external funding or was it all internal funded? If you were evaluated by RAF, let's say it's coming out of a fundamental research program in academic TRL 1 through 2 or 3 program, you would fill out this information. If not, it just doesn't come out of it. You say, no, you are required to exhaust any available EU or other commercialization support your funding source is providing. First, the reason for that is we have a limited budget and we want to use that budget as wisely as possible. So if you get whatever you can get from them first, then we can do add-on services and help you with the add-on services like the marketing and deal making. We want a non-confidential summary of it. Only 2 pages. We're trying to keep this simple. And quite frankly, the reason for doing this is when you go to talk to other people about what you're doing, you're going to need a 2-page summary. And most people will not be interested in reading more than 2 pages about what you are commercializing. So this is, in a sense, your elevator speech, your value proposition. It says what you have, why it's important. Now, the next thing we ask you for, and by the way, some of this you will see also in path 1 or 2. Path 1 or 2 is a much simpler application. It's basically tell us who owns it, this kind of stuff. Give us your disclosure form, and I'll discuss disclosure forms in a second. We need to know who owns it. You would just think of it this way. You have a house. You won't want somebody else deciding what the house was worth and how to sell it unless you were part of that decision. Or in fact, you won't want somebody who wasn't an owner in the house doing that, even if it was a friend of yours. It's like, no, that's my house. I own it. Well, it's the same with intellectual property. Only the owners can control it. So we want to know who's an owner, who controls it, and make sure everybody who is an owner is aware of what's going on, because we're protecting you and we're quite frankly protecting us as well. Because if you tell us this is who owns it, we will believe you. Every now and then somebody puts in, this was a researcher, they don't own anything. And you don't need to put that. It's not a major problem if you do, because they own 0%. It's just doesn't make sense. But so please just keep it to the people who actually own it, because the reviewers, when they look at, they're like, why is this here? Is this a problem? And then they have to think about it and maybe, whatever. So next thing is ownership of IP in the intellectual assets. Why do you think you own it? Now, there's all sorts of reasons why you think you can own it. And by the way, this is in the guide. Why do you think you can own it? Well, I have an inventor's notebook that establishes I invented it. If I'm using a term you don't know, like inventor's notebook, there's a simple solution here. We go up to the web and we do this, and we say, find inventor's notebook. And there is what an inventor's notebook's all about. So you can find out about inventor's notebooks and what they are. What the inventor's notebook basically is it's a notebook with sewn in pages. The reason the pages are sewn in is so that you can't just randomly change them and tear them out. And then every time you put something in, you sign it and you date that page. So it's all continuous, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. So we're doing that. So, and again, we're working down. This is the guide. We're working down. If we were in the guide and we go to find the term, I'm sorry, it's bright in my office here. So but if you go find, there's find, and you type it, oh, there it is. Nope. And it'll take you down to where inventors' notebooks are discussed, and look at, here's a definition of what it is, just like I was telling you before. So you know. So we're trying to make this easy for you. That's why we wrote the guide. Okay, let's go back and look some more at the part B that we were talking about. Another way you can do this is you filed for a patent already, so put the patent application in. There's all sorts of ways you can do it. You can say, look, here is we have a letter here that we can provide that was signed by the inventor, and the inventor says this company that they work for owns it. Or we have their contract that says it's a work for hire, and this person says, in other words, a work for hire means the person who's paying for the work owns all the intellectual property, and you have the employment contract and the name of the inventor. We're not trying to make this hard for you. You just have to establish you own it, because if we don't know that somebody owns it, then this and this go together. That's all that's going on there. Now, the next question is, do you think this can be protected? We know it can be protected. I know it can be protected. Anything can be protected through trade secret. That means you don't tell anybody about it. And anybody you tell has signed a non-confidentiality agreement, or has signed a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement, as they're sometimes called, non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement that says, I'm not going to talk about it. That keeps it secret. It's your secret. As long as you keep it as a secret, you have trade secret. If you are confused about what other kinds of intellectual property there are, the beautiful thing is we can go back to the web. We can go kinds of intellectual property. And we find all sorts of information on intellectual property. Here's stuff from the US, for example, intellectual property for kids. I mean, you know, or you can do this. You can say intellectual property office, Cyprus. And here's the intellectual property section of the registrar of companies and intellectual property. And they have everything you need to know about what's intellectual property in that. You could go to the European Patent Office and do the same. Lots of information on the web. Everybody uses the web for their own purposes. Remember, it works just as well for business. So go to the web if you are confused and Google what you need to know. So here we are back at our part 3. So now we indicate, well, we've got this under trade secret and we don't know if it can be patented or not. That's one thing we'd like the CKTO to tell us. That's okay. You can say, I'm not sure. You know, I'd like you to tell me if you think it can be protected. That's a valid thing. We just want to know where you are right now. And again, we only need 2 paragraphs on this. We're not looking for an essay. Now, if you are an innovative enterprise, we ask you what the certificate number is because that allows us to cut short some things. Next, we come to the business model canvas. Now, what you're saying to yourself, what is a business model canvas? It is described in the guide. But you can see it's basically like a roadmap to commercialization. It says, how are you thinking about commercializing your technology today? Now, the beautiful thing is, if you are not sure about this, you can go to the World Intellectual Property Organization, and they have a toolkit on there. It's called the Toolkit on New Product Development and Inventions in the Public Domain. So you go Toolkit on New Product Development, whiteboard. And there's these 1 or 2 minute videos on all sorts of things. They're wonderful. I think they're wonderful. I help make them. This is a project I do for the World Intellectual Property Organization. Here's the one on the business model canvas. You may not be able to hear this, but you can see that it's a text, and there is also a voiceover that's going on in the background. I don't know if that comes through or not. But my point is this. You can Google it there and find information. You can also just go business model canvas. Whoa, how do you create one? What's in it? See, there's lots of stuff out there explained with examples. So again, the information you need is out there on how to do business canvases. If you're confused, Google it. I know this seems harsh, but the reality is commercialization is not easy. And so one reason that we have you doing this is to make sure you're thinking about what you want to accomplish, the way you're approaching it. Now, let's go back to our template. I'm not looking for an essay here. I'm looking for 1 or 2 sentences or bullets that say what you're thinking about. It doesn't have to be perfect, but my guess is if you're thinking about coming to the CKTO, you have some idea who you're going to sell to. You have some idea of what your value proposition is. You have some idea of what the technology is. Notice this we've already done before. This just specifies for here, we want to know what's the benefit, features, and functionalities. What is it doing and how does it do it? To the extent it's, and this doesn't have, this can be confidential or not because this is not released. The only thing that anybody else can ever see, it's just like in a proposal you write a non-proprietary abstract, is that abstract of what you put there. Everything else is confidential. And everybody who touches this is under a confidentiality agreement. And if you don't know, put your best guess and say, I'm not sure, maybe this. But at least put a little thought into it, because when our experts sit down to talk to you, it helps have a productive conversation if you put some thought into what you want to do to commercialize what you have. Because if you haven't thought about it at all, you own it. We don't own it. They don't own it. You own it. So our service is to help you meet your goals and objectives and take you along paths you want to go down, help you do that. But if you haven't thought about it, then how are we supposed to design a service to help you? So we need you to spend a little time thinking about this. You also want to think about what your roadblocks to commercializations are. And this is particularly important for those of you who don't have an innovation certificate. If you're a company that does, you've already demonstrated you can think about roadblocks so you can discuss them. But we don't know, about somebody who's never been around before. They may not have thought about this. So we want you to think about it. And if maybe I have no idea what I'm doing here. I've never done this before. That's my primary roadblock. I need some hand-holding. That's okay. We need to know where you're starting from and where you are so that we can come in and be productive and not waste your time. So that's all there is in filling out the Part B. Pretty straightforward, as you can see. Lots of information on the web where you can get help. Lots of ways to find information. Very easy to navigate the IRIS system if you've done anything with RIF in the past, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible by putting other links on the basic website so you don't even have to go into IRIS. That's how you apply. Again, we will have the new calls up shortly. They have been finally approved. We just have to revise the guide because it was recommended that we combine path 1 and 2. That's the technical glitch. So we just have to combine those and adapt the guide. By the way, when you are in the guide, at the end of the guide, there's an FAQ. So you can get any question that was asked before. This is all, you see, here's all the definitions of what goes into various parts of the business model canvas and a description of that. Down here is the FAQs. So when we get things into the help desk, if it seems like a problem somebody else is likely to have, I amend this document and add something new to the FAQs. So this is the core document you need as you fill out your application. I recommend you have this document open on one side and the call document and the technical part, whatever you're filling in, on the other side. Okay, that is my handy dandy quick tutorial. So at this point, I am open to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen once I figure out how to do that. There it is, stop sharing. And I am open to answering any questions that anybody has. And if I'm missing a question, just unmute and let me know. I don't see any Q&A. See if there's any in chat. I don't have any in chat. So before we end this, does anybody have any questions? Okay, one final comment. for those of you that are in a research organization, a university, a center of excellence, a research institute, please remember the call for spokes is still open. You just go in, put KTO in Iris under calls, and the call for spokes will pop up. Like this call, the call for spokes is very simple and straightforward. It's even easier than this call. So feel free to go there. I see something in question, all clear. Okay, thank you. Again, if you have questions and it's not covered in the guide, call the help desk or send an email to the help desk, and they will forward it to me and I will answer it. And if you feel you need a webinar to like this, a quick webinar to walk you through things, I will do a webinar for people. It's just open to everybody. I don't want anything unique to you because that's not fair. But I'm happy to provide supplemental training. This is your program. The goal of this program is to benefit you. So let us know how we can do that better. Thank you very much.